this. Yes, wonderful. Okay. Step one,
Professor,
yes,
we've done a couple of the lights, it's kind of hard to.
absolutely. And I'm writing small, so that doesn't make it any easier. Does that read a little better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hit, go, hit. What do I mean by that? All right. If I take a line and I just draw a line. Like that. That's just a line. Okay. If I then take that same line and well, I'm going to do 2 lines. Okay. Look at those 2 lines. Which line reads better to you? The top one or the bottom one?
The bottom one?
The bottom one. That's because I'm doing a hit, a dark spot, I'm going lighter, and I'm doing another hit. Hit, go, hit. The reason you do this is your eye tends to look for corners and ends. And if it doesn't see one, it's just going to kind of follow this and just dribble off forever. If it sees that hit, it's immediately drawn to it. It follows it to the other hit, and then it goes backwards. So hit, go, hit is just a little technique to use. If you could all grab your paper and do 3 or 4 lines like I just did on about that size of the page, do a couple. It's easier to do this in pencil than it is in pen. And at first, you kind of cheat. You draw like a blob and then you draw and then you put another blob there. But you'll get used to just pushing down hard, pushing down hard. Try doing about 4 or 5 hit, go, hit lines. You can do them in ink. And actually, if you get lucky, that's not so much, but it depends on the pen. I got a little hit, go, hit. It's a little harder to do it in ink than in pencil, but with ink, it's all about the speed. If you go slower at the beginning, the line gets a little fatter. And as you speed up in the middle, it gets thinner. And as you slow down at the end, it gets fat. So hit, go, hit in ink can naturally occur. Try it with pencil first. If you've got a pencil, if not, try it with ink. Do those. I'm going to walk around and take a look at some hit, go, hit lines while you're doing it. That's enough of that, but it's real critical. When I tell you these things, what I want you to do is in your life travels, when you look at other drawings, start to look for some of these techniques popping up. I mentioned the profile line, which we're going to go through in a minute. Look for it in other drawings. And you'll start to see it. The next one that I'm going to go over is overlap corners. All right. I'm going to draw 3 corners, and I'll do them in ink. Why not? Not because my poor pens won't write anymore. I want you to look at the 3 corners on the board. In the first corner, the lines touch exactly at the corner. Everybody here is too young to have taken high school drafting in the 70s, other than yours truly. This used to be what you were taught in drafting, that the corners had to touch exactly, not go over, not go less. Next, I'm showing you one where the corner doesn't touch. You can kind of see, it's a little tough to see on the screen, but there's a break there when the corner doesn't touch. This is known as an overlapping corner. Of those three, which one reads the best?
First one.
The first one? Anybody, any other thoughts on that? Last one. It's, what happens is this amplifies the corner a little bit. Now that I've told this to you, a lot of people like looking at old architectural blueprints and they think they're just really pretty, and they are. Take a look. There might be some hand-drawn ones up there. I'm not going to go through it. If you look at old hand-drawn drawings that everybody loves, this is all over the place. Overlapping corners are everywhere. It gives things kind of a sketchy feel, so they don't look like they were made by a machine. They look like it's got a human touch to it. But not only that, remember when I was up here and I said on hit, go, hit, your eye looks for ends and corners. This amplifies the corner. There's another big plus to this. And that is, so it reads better, but if you're drafting, which is a lot of what we do, drafting is all about speed, because there's never enough time to do a project, and there's never enough time to make it like you want. If I've got to do that first corner, I've really got to think about, okay, where is it going to touch? I got to kind of move it right there and then go over like this. All right, so I've really got to think about it. Overlapping corners, it's like, yeah, I'll just get it close, and that's good enough. It still gets the point across, but it's a lot quicker to do them. And if you'll notice these lines, can you see the hit, go, hit? And that was just drawing. Like I said, the pen, because I started off slow and I took off and then I slowed down, it just made it in ink. So what I'd like you to do, in pen or pencil, I don't care, and freehand, I'm not going to use the equipment. I just want you to go ahead and you can make a couple boxes if you want with overlapping corners. You can just make corners. You can make triangles. And ideally, you might even throw a little hit, go, hit in there. See how that reads? It makes these little blobs at each corner. And it really stands out more than, it's tough for me to draw not hit, go, hit. I kind of have to force myself to. And I still got a little overlap there. But you see the two boxes? Hit, go, hit, overlapping corners, no hit, go, hit, no overlapping corners. That one stands out more. That one catches your eye. Draw 4 or 5 boxes in a row on your sheet, and I will look at them. You can see the size that I'm making them. You know, they're an inch or two big. Overlap less. Good, good, good. Remember this, because usually what happens, and this is not a bad group, so we'll see. Nobody's a bad group. Usually when you put your first few assignments on the board, I will go through and say, no overlap corners, no overlap corners, no overlap corners, no overlap. I go right down the wall and everybody forgets it. By the end of the class, everybody's doing it. But try and if there's only one thing you take out of today, make it overlap corners. You'll watch your drawings increase in beauty just like that. And now, like I said, when you're on Google or on the internet, you see it's just kind of, you see these sketchy drawings that you just like, and you'll see overlap corners all over the place. All right, everybody's mastered overlap corners. Profile. Profile lines. All right. If I do 3 circles or three boxes, or you could do more if you wanted. That's just 3 circles and 3 boxes. If I go around that, just around the perimeter, with a heavy line. And I'm doing these in pencil, but I'm just bearing down like crazy. I do most of my work in ink, but what I do in ink, I'll show you in a minute. But all I'm doing is going around just the outside edge. That is known as a profile line. I talked about that a little bit earlier today. Oops, a little off on that one. But if you compare all right, these two are roughly the same. All I did was on this one, I put a profile line around it. This looks like 3 distinct boxes, kind of bumping into one another. This looks like one whole thing that's made up of 3 different boxes. It's a big deal. I still used my overlapping corners. I was bearing down so hard, I get some hit, go hit, but the overlapping corners are there. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and draw, put a couple shapes, just touching one another. You can do triangles. I really don't care what they are. You can just draw. So start out with something like that, and then go around them with just around the perimeter. It's got to be just the perimeter. Do that, and then just go around the outside edge and put a profile around it. And ink, if you're working in ink, unless you have 2 pens, see, I do profile lines in ink all the time, but I'll show you how I do those in a minute. Okay, so you're going around it with a profile. In ink, what I would typically do, sorry, I have to put a, okay, let's say I would have a pen that writes, please. Now I could just go over these things twice with this pen, but the easier way to do it is use 2 different pens. And the 2 pens that I use, oh, that's a new one too. I like that. You'll get these in supplies. This is a fine point Sharpie. Well, this is an ultra fine point Sharpie. This is called the fine point Sharpie, but I just call that a Sharpie. And you'll hear this later on, but this is like your mom used to write your name on your underwear before she sent you to camp. That's in a Sharpie. It's a permanent marker. These you could find all over the place, but I just use I just take I use a heavier pen to make my profile. If you don't have a heavier pen, if you've only got 1 pen to work with, then draw the first boxes kind of light. And just maybe go over them a couple times. Just around the perimeter. So start doing a few of those. And that's a way to do it without having a fatter pen. let's do some boxes, do some professional dots. That's fun. Let's talk about, since you've all mastered hit, go, hit profile lines. And we'll see if I spell professional right. Professional dots. All right. One thing we're trying to do all the time is introduce character into our line work and our drawing. So it looks like it came from the human hand. So it wasn't generated by a machine. One way of doing that is, come on. There we go. Here's just a line. Okay, it's just a line. I can do that same line and just put a couple dots in it. Notice the dots? Can you see the dots up there? And there's a dot there. I can do it. I can throw a few dots in on corners. I can do dots when I'm drawing circles. All it's doing is it's just giving my line a little more character. What are the advantages to using the dots outside of the fact that it does give it character? And if you want to see some dots, take a look at this drawing that you did the sketch of. Professional dot, professional dot, professional dot, professional dot. They're all over on this thing. You'll see I just put little dots in there. It gives it a hand-drawn feel. It gives some interest to it. And there's another couple advantages to it, especially if you're doing freehand drawing. When you go to draw a line, especially a long line, if you're trying to do a long straight line, realize that you're using a rotating joint of your wrist, a rotating joint of your elbow, rotating joints here. There's a real natural tendency to go like this. Oops, when you really wanted to go straight. So what happens is whenever you're drawing lines or curves, it's tough to draw. He couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler. And we're asking you to draw a straight line freehand. Well, what you can do is when you start to do your line, you can go, oh, I'm slipping a little, stop, put in a dot, start all over again, put in a dot. So basically, what you're doing is you're doing 17 short lines with dots in a straight line. It reads as a straight line, but you're less likely to curve it off the page. So what I'm going to have you do is on your sheet, sorry, I got carried away over there, just do a few lines with some dots in there. Whoops. See, I got a little woogly there. Woogly is a technical term. Just draw some straight lines, put some dots in there. Just be kind of random with it. You can start to see where I jiggle the most. I was going to say, what you want to avoid doing is this. Dash. Anybody know Morse code? Dot, dash. This is what I don't want to see. No. All right. Don't be too regular with it, or else it starts looking like Morse code. But go ahead, do a few lines. I'm going to walk around. All right, circles. I'm going to give you this the last one, and then we're going to take a break, which we were supposed to take 15 minutes ago. But let's do some circles. All right, the problem with drawing circles is everybody wants to draw eggs. All right, it's real tough to draw a circle without a compass or a circle template. It's actually not that hard if you do the following. Lightly draw a square. Eyeball it, cut it in half. Cut it in half. So now I drew a square the size of the circle I want to get. I cut it in half vertically, I cut it in half horizontally. I then using those foolish dots, just do 4 arcs. All right, so instead of having to try and do a whole circle, I do 4 parts of it at a one at a time. And you can get a pretty nice circle that way. Again, if you just lay it out lightly. And you kind of reel it, and everybody has one part that they hate the most. Like, I don't like doing the lower left, or I don't like doing the upper right. You'll have a weak link, but it's a lot easier to try and do 4 consistent arcs than it is to try and draw. That's a pretty good one. It's just a lot easier to do 4 segments than it is to do one whole circle. So go ahead and make some boxes lightly, and I'm gonna try and do this in ink just to see if I can do it, because I know a lot of you don't have both pencils and pen. See, if I go a light touch on my ink pen, I can kind of get sort of light lines. Notice the dots in there. And then if I go slow, I can kind of, that's a horrible circle, but we're going to live with it. Wow, that's really bad, but it's better than if I just tried it freehand. So do 3 or 4 boxes, make squares, cut it in half both ways, and collect, then line up for different arcs.